Welcome in, everybody. This is Pro Football Enterprises. This is one of the most relaxing things I ever do out of all the things we talk about. We talk about draft prospects, we talk about head coaching hires, we talk about free agents. This is so relaxing to me, this XO stuff. And I don't even have a great XO background. It's somewhat limited. Shane's got a great XO background, Austin's got a pretty good one. I just love doing this. All right. So, just so some of you know, and we had a great turnout for our last video, the Buffalo Bills, and we got a lot of good comments too. But just so some of you know what we're trying to do here, we are trying to avoid some of the really basic things like, hey, be a great tackling team, unless it's really important for the particular offense that we're going up against, right? We try to avoid some of the things like game script because certainly we understand that if you have a touchdown lead in the second quarter, you can kind of sort of start to control things. We try to avoid a good bit of that, but we're also not going to get too deep into personnel. What personnel is the offense running, right? We're going to try to stay with strengths and weaknesses, and we're going to try to stay with the generic game plan. So this isn't, Sunday game plan stuff. This is maybe starting out the week, right? This is late Sunday night, early Monday morning. Here's what we start with, and then the coaches take it from there. So that's kind of where we're at here. It's just fun. It's generic. If y'all got comments, by all means, drop them in, man. I don't care if they're nice or not. Don't get too mean, but if you don't agree with us, that's fine. Say so. That's totally fine. Bring it on. Drop it in the comments. If you want to come on the show, I haven't said this in a while. If you want to come on the show and join us, me, Shane, Austin, you're more than welcome. Just hit me up at Ben Park 79. That's at Ben Park 79 on X. You are more than welcome to jump on the show and talk about an offense and cover it with us. It's fun to do. We try to get as specific as we can with the time that we have, but it's kind of a generic early on kind of a mesh thing, right? So that's what we're looking at here tonight. The Detroit Lions offense. I assume if you're watching this, a lot of you will be Lions fans. We're not picking on your team. We just like your offense, man. Okay. And so we're going to try to figure out how to stop it. So, promise we're not here to pick on your team. We are trying to figure out how to stop your really good offense. And the helmets don't really mean anything other than, hey, it's division rivals, right? So Packers, Vikings, Bears, division rivals. If this were an average defense we were putting together, what might we try to do against the Detroit Lions? All right. I think Austin, I'm gonna have you go first tonight, man. Go any direction you want. What you want to try to stop, how you want to try to stop it, what personnel you want on the field, man. There's a lot of different directions, or maybe if you've got some great analytics for us, like you did last week. But go ahead and give us something off the top here, man.
I decided to look at this from a Vikings fan perspective and someone who's
Oh,
seen seen the Lions, do things to the Vikings defense that most teams can't do. And I think that really all stems from Jared Goff, who is potentially the most underrated quarterback in the NFL at this point in his career. He is a phenomenal play action quarterback. He's really good under center. And what he's able to do, and for those of you who don't really understand how difficult it is to run play action from under center, when you're in shotgun, you're back and you're kind of able, you're turning and you're kind of doing a play action fake while keeping your eyes downfield the whole time. Versus when you're under center, you're having to turn around and run back and then re kind of discover the defense. And in that half of a second that you're not looking in the NFL, those guys move quick. And sometimes it'll look like, somebody teleported across the field. Those guys are running so fast.
in Brian Flores' case, they may actually be teleporting. Yes.
Yeah. So it's very difficult to do, and you see a lot of young quarterbacks struggle with it. And that is something that Jared Goff at this point in his career has, I don't know if I want to say mastered, but he is at the upper echelon of what you can expect out of an NFL quarterback in terms of his ability to run play action from under center. So I am trying to be as cognizant as that as possible. And you see Brian Flores do this by bringing these really unique looks at him and blitzing the hell out of him. And at this point, I think I'm giving up on that for the most part. I think you have to keep him on his toes and be able to do it every once in a while. But what I'm hoping to see out of the matchup this year when the Lions come to town, I truly want to see us just be like, okay, Jared, you've had our number with the blitzes. You always have an answer. We're going to show pressure and then not actually bring it a lot. And we're going to just hope that can give our corners who hopefully are good enough because they have some talent at receiver now. Hopefully are good enough to blanket coverage long enough for me to have my guys get there, even if I'm only bringing four. So I'm trying to hide where I'm coming from, show pressure, and try and it's tough to do, but
Right.
try and basically do it all at the same time, where you're trying to limit his ability to, go deep to Jamison Williams, who's running, a 4-3 down the sideline, but also, find a wide open Jahmyr Gibbs or Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's just kind of 7 yards, away, just wide open. So when they're running all this play action, you have to try and keep him on his toes and be unpredictable.
Yeah, I listen, I agree with what you're saying, Austin. Those are not the directions that my notes went, but I was trying, and listen, I know every NFL defense is going to mix coverages and we're going to try to disguise, right? Again, we're not trying to hit all the basic stuff here that we already know, right? So if you're in the audience, we get that. But with this Lions offense, I really do. I like the show pressure drop out thing, and I'll occasionally bring pressure. I do have that in my thought line, but I've got some other things in mind, and this show pressure drop out, this mix it up kind of stuff I like. Okay, so that totally fits. And I was curious because I think this Lions offense is hard to stop. Like I really do. I think it's
Absolutely.
very difficult to stop because they got so many different ways they can beat you. But I was curious to see if we would agree on anything tonight. Because again, we didn't talk about this beforehand. We just bring our own ideas to the table and start, trying to piece an early part of this puzzle together. What you're talking about fits with what I want to do. Okay, I'll leave it at that till I get to my notes. But I like this early thing. Shane, um, go ahead and trot out what you're trying to do here first, and we'll start trying to put this together.
So I think the number one thing in my mind defensively for this team, and it's not true of basically any other team in the NFL, is you truly have to be prepared to play defense for 4 downs. Because Dan Campbell will go for it. He's proven that time and time again. The only one that comes close is Philadelphia, and with the tush push and the way that they do it, that's not the way that Detroit looks for it. But he's going to go for it more than your average coach in the NFL. And I think the best way to go after this team is you have to be ready for 4 downs. But I think this year, more than the years in the past, is you attack the offensive line. I think you need to have dominant defensive tackles that can apply pressure up the middle because, as Austin said, they love to do play action. And the easiest way to disrupt that is to get early pressure up the middle on the quarterback. For Detroit right now, that is probably the weaker side of their offensive line, having to replace Frank Ragnow. Um, and I think Penny Sewell is probably one of the best tackles, if not in the top three in the NFL right now. So I'm not going to try to beat him. I'm going to go up the middle. I'm going to bring defensive tackle. I'm going to bring A gap pressure as much as I can.
All right. Now, I actually agree with that too. It's different than what Austin put out there. So again, just from us sitting at a table, if we were defensive coaches trying to put this together, Austin, in my head here because I do want to hash this out a little bit. It's worth talking about. These offenses are hard to stop, man. All right, in my head, are we okay, Austin, with early on, first down especially, getting after it, trying to jam the line in the middle, and then on the second and third downs, doing more of the show pressure, drop out stuff? Or are you really wanting the whole game to be more show pressure, drop out kind of thing?
No, I want to be unpredictable, I think
Okay.
is my number one most thing. And I actually in my notes, Shane, had directly verbatim the A gap just written down. Like that's where I want to live, and I think that's where I'm going to have my success is from the interior because they are so stout on the outside, but they still love to run it up the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to get pressure up the middle is going to be paramount, and I think that's a big part of success. So yeah, I want to be unpredictable. I want to bring pressure up the middle sometimes, and other times I want to show it and drop out of it. Yeah, I think that's all part of the keys. It's really you can't do everything.
Right.
Is I think the most
Right.
important thing is you have to uh, you know, understand that you are limited to what ha can happen in 4 quarters and what can happen with your current personnel because it changes year to year and week to week with injuries.
Yeah. Yeah, and listen, we won't cover it too much tonight, but if I've got two great defensive tackles, my game plan is going to be a little different than if my tackles are average and my safeties are excellent. So again, based on personnel, might shape what we do. I'm going to be a little scattered here on what will be my first and kind of only point with three rolled into one here because they're all tied together, and to me, I think they fit with what you guys are talking about here. So give me just a second here. I'm going to type it first. I want to do cover one, and y'all didn't bring up coverages yet. I'll see if y'all agree with that later. And I want to mix cover one with cover one robber is what I'm looking to do here. All right. So here's what I like about what y'all said. I want to attack the middle. I think that's where we just need to blow it up. Not only because they love to run the football, but because I think they're softer up the middle on passing downs, and I can get after it. Okay. So I I want to I want to stop the run. I'm scared to death of this running game. I will wake up in the middle of the night with cold sweats trying to stop this running game. The offensive linemen are so good at technically being where they're supposed to be on these run plays, and you got not one but two running backs that can carry the football and catch the football. I really want to stop this run game. It's very important to me, but I'm also scared to death of all these over the middle passes that this Lions team throws. These mesh routes, these crossing routes, these little out routes, all that stuff. So I'm looking to mix that up. I thought about this. Cover one for me is what I wanted to do the most. So I'll draw it up a little bit here, and then we'll start kicking it back over to y'all for a response on cover one um or whatever else y'all want to talk about. So anyway, here's cover one, safety over the top, right? I've got let me do a little bit of drawing here too. Where's the pen I want to use here? There we go. All right. So, I'm sorry, goofing around with the wrong pen. Okay. So here's man, right? Here's man. I've got man over here as well, and I'm sure I've got too many men on the line, but whatever. Um, then I'm going to put out this guy should be covering the tight end right here. I've got one safety deep. I've got this guy covering the running back essentially, or if the running back goes over to this side, then that linebacker would take him over, right? But no matter what, I've got two linebackers here, one of which can either play the robber, which is covering all the passing lanes in the middle, right? Trying to steal all those mesh routes, or on downs where I really want to blow it up and attack the middle, hopefully first down. He's just dropping straight into the middle here. I have five right there at the line of scrimmage, which in theory if I'm doing a decent job of tackling, it's going to slow down that running game. And in theory, I've got everybody accounted for. And then on the passing downs, I can drop more into this robber area here. On top of that, in Austin, this was already on my head. It's in my notes, and it goes along with what you were saying about show pressure, drop out. I'd love to mix in cover two sporadically in this game too. I want cover one to be my main theme, but I'd love to drop into cover two, which would be two safeties, four under. And I think four under would help a lot with creating a little bit of confusion, with hopefully covering a lot of those underneath routes. Now, what am I giving up here? I mean, I'm giving up the Jamison Williams thing, right? I can't stop everything. I don't want him to burn me deep, but listen, whoever's got him in man is just going to have to back off of him a little bit and not let him burn them deep. And then by mixing in some cover two, hopefully on the longer passing downs, I can limit Jamison Williams on that explosiveness stuff. So what I'm essentially willing to give up here is I'm risking the deep throws in order to hopefully, and this is one advantage of cover one, right? You got more men in the box. Usually you've got 6, 7, 8 men in the box, depending on the play. Hopefully, we're going to slow down that run game a little bit. We're going to slow down and limit those intermediate over the middle passing routes too. So that's why I like cover one robber with a mixture of cover two as my main again, we're going to mix up all kinds of coverages, but as my main coverages I want to get into this game as I attack the Lions, that's what I'm looking at. So it's a little bit scattered there. We can go more into detail there if you want, but Austin, I'm going to give it back to you. Respond to anything here or go on with your next point, whichever you want to do.
I actually don't love running that much man against the Lions personally. I wrote I want to be in cover six against the Lions. I want to have two guys running. If you don't know what cover six is, it's also known as quarter half, probably more commonly, which is where on the strong side of the formation you'll be in quarters, and then on the weak side, it'll only be it's like cover two on that side. So it's cover four on the strong side and cover two on the weak side of the offense. And to me, the reason I'm doing that is because I don't trust linebackers against the quality of the Lions crossing game. And I think you're dead on about how deadly they are over the middle. Jamison Williams running a deep crosser is going to be the only thing I'm thinking about probably the night before the games because he runs probably four of them a game. And usually one, if not two of them, is going to be a 27-yard catch or more. And that's nightmare fuel for a defensive coordinator because every once in a while he just breaks them off and it's gone, and you're never catching him once he gets a step on you. So I'm running like quarter halves, and I'm having hopefully some more speed on the field to try and keep up. The problem when you do that is when Amon-Ra St. Brown is kind of allowed to just pick apart zone, him and Jared Goff are deadly. But I think I can live with that more than I can live with just being beat across the field by Sam Laporta and by
Mhm.
Jamison Williams all game. And Amon-Ra St. Brown too. I mean, he runs tremendous routes all over the field. Or literally wherever you want him, he's going to find ways to get open. So I think I'm just going to concede that fact and try and stop the other guys. And then you just have to worry about stopping Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Have fun.
It is tough. My biggest reason for cover one is to stop the run. That's really what it is.
Right.
My
Yeah.
secondary reason was the middle of the field stuff, which I agree. The linebackers are going to have their hands full. So in my head, and I didn't say it, in my head, I'm going to go more with nickel dime personnel.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I now again, it's like you're darned if you do, you're darned if you don't, right? If I
Yeah.
start going with skinnier, lighter personnel, now the Lions are going to block me to death, right? I don't have
Mhm.
big enough bodies. So, I've got a problem either way. I'm totally open to what you're putting out there, Austin. I mean, man, if we think we can kind of do more of that shallow zone stuff with cover six, like you were saying, and just limit some of this stuff, right? I'm okay with that too, and we'll let Shane weigh in here in a second. But that was where I was going with cover one. You're thinking cover six. Austin, was there another note in there, or was that just so far you talking about cover one so far?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think. I mean, I think I do like cover six as a note, just because I think what it does in terms of limiting a lot of their most explosive across the middle plays.
All right. And by the way, if you're in the audience and you're like, hey, I wouldn't run either one of those defenses, I'd do a different one. That's okay. Jump in. All right. Let us
Let
know.
us
All
know.
right.
Yeah.
So we'd be more than glad to hear it. We're kind of setting a table here, putting ideas out. And if you got more specific things in the audience that you want to tell us about, drop it in the comments and just make it a better discussion. All right. Please don't come in with a bunch of weirdness, but make it a better discussion. All right. Make us all smarter. We would appreciate that. Shane, feel free here. We've had you sitting out for a while. Talk about cover one, cover six, or just get to your next note, whichever you're feeling here.
Okay, so kind of blending the two. So I agree with Austin on this. Um, I would look cover six. The only change that I would really look cover six because Austin mentioned my biggest worry is when you get up in the cover six system, it depends on how you delineate. Are you going to play half to the wide side of the field, or are we going to play half to a specific squadron of receivers or tight ends? For me, I think that Detroit's offense is all about timing. So I'm going to play cover six, but I'm going to jam Amon-Ra St. Brown at the line, and I'm going to want my end to chip on Sam Laporta each time he tries to get out in a route. I think the Lions do a better job than anyone else. Maybe other than other than the Rams, with the timing of their offense, wide receivers get open because they know exactly where to be at the right time, and I think a lot of that is powered by Amon-Ra St. Brown, with the multitude of skills that he has. And his ability to find the openings, I think he's the fire starter for the offense. And that's why I would agree with Austin on the cover six, but I would do what most people call is like jam one, read two. So you get a jam off the line of scrimmage, have them flow back into their coverage responsibilities, but it's going to hold up that timing. And as Austin mentioned, the hard thing to do is if you're play actioning under center, Goff has to turn completely against the defense, and when he first makes that turn, he's going to see DBs tight against his wide receivers. And then by the time he rotates bats, he's going to see that offense has progressed, but now my defensive backs have fallen back into that zone coverage. I like to mix that up. I think Austin being a Minnesota Vikings fan helps because Brian Flores loves to mix those coverages in. And he also has a lot of players on his team that can do enough of a lot of things to where you can mix and match personnel in there. That's something you need to do against this offense. You need to have other weapons, guys that you can play as an outside linebacker that's probably better as a defensive end, a defensive back that's probably better as a linebacker. Those guys are going to get shifted around. I'm going to ask them to do a bunch of different things to try to confuse the looks that Detroit's looking for.
All right, very good work. I'll come to both of you for final thoughts here in just a second. So, I like what you guys are saying here. All right. I still would love to mix in a good bit of my cover one. Again, cover one, Robert, depending on which one you would do here. But what you're saying there with the cover six, especially okay, when it comes to my number one fear was the running game. I've got to stop that, or at least slow it down, right? But when it came to the passing game, my number one fear was Amon-Ra St. Brown, all right? And that's where I'm really am thinking, man, dang it, what do I do with him? Because he really is the key to so much of what they do, right? He is so flexible and physical at the same time. What do we do about him? Because yes, the tight end can hurt me, and yes, Williams can hurt me, but Amon-Ra St. Brown's the one I'm really trying to slow down and stop here. So I like the jam one, read two thing. I think that works great. If we're doing that, then I like cover six a whole heck of a lot better. I think that's really good here. So again, we're all mixing coverages. We don't want to do full out blitz. We want to show it, drop out. I really feel like I'd love to get them behind schedule if I can. I know everybody says that about every defense, but it's like Bill Walsh says, first down's the most important, not third down. I would love to get them behind schedule. It starts to slow down what they can do from a lot of different standpoints. But again, so much easier said than done. So, all right. Also, let's get back to you for your final thoughts here, and then we'll hit shape.
I think you have to come into this matchup in like a, bend but don't break mindset. You have to basically admit that, hey, this team's going to get their yards, and there's not necessarily that much we can do ultimately to stop it. But what we can do is prevent big plays as well as possible and do our best job once they get inside the red zone of limiting them to field goals and rather than, hitting pay dirt and giving up 6, 7 points. So I am kind of trying to take all these things we've talked about, and then you have to just come into it with, that attitude of we can't get, mentally defeated when they put together really long drives, because that's just going to happen. And if that is happening, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It is part of, the overall goal of not allowing them to be explosive and put up 40 points on me. So I think just kind of having that attitude and working together and not getting discouraged when, they have a 7.5 minute, 75-yard touchdown drive against you in the first quarter. Like that's you can still recover from that and
Mhm.
still play a good game. So, but it's hard when you're going up against a team of this caliber and you see them grind out a tough drive like that. It's easy to mentally sort of be like, wow, I guess there's not too much we can do to stop them at this point. But I mean, even just last night watching the Monday Night Football game, the Jaguars against the Chiefs, I saw a lot of the stuff we talked about actually put into action than the Jaguars did against the Chiefs, and they came out and had a really good second half defensively, doing a lot of the stuff, not everything, but a lot of the stuff we talked about.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't remember which game it was. I saw it in another game this weekend as well. And I was like, hey, yeah, we talked about some of that. We didn't get it all wrong. I will say when I was looking at cover one, because Austin, you mentioned about those long drives that Detroit tends to do, and maybe I'm being too aggressive here. I was trying to stop that, but there's a risk that comes with the cover one man because then you're gonna, one missed tackle, boom, touchdown, you're toast. Everybody's got to be tackling really good for that to work. And so if I if I really want to do this aggressive cover one thing, whether it's rubber or regular, I've got to have a better defense. If I've got a more average defense, which is what we're assuming, then the cover six is really what we need to be going with. All right, we need to. They're going to have some long drives. Hopefully, we stop them in goal line areas, red zone areas, but they're going to have their long drives unless we've got a good defense. So, yeah, totally agree with that. Shane, final thoughts here on what we're trying to do.
So, on the final thoughts on this, before I mention that, Ben, I will mention that the one game you might have also been talking about is the Patriots took a pretty good carbon copy of our discussion about what to do against the Bills,
That was it.
and it worked out okay for them. So, the the point that Austin brought up, the Jaguars, is exactly what my final point is. Your offense has to be involved to help your defense. The Jaguars made some changes against Kansas City to be able to play against that. The other thing that they did was they controlled the time of possession. You want Detroit to have to score quickly to try to get back into games, and you want your offense to try to eat as much of that clock up to let your defense rest, to let them be prepared, and to get Detroit worried about having to score. I know it's last year, but if you go back and look at it, the ability of Washington to break that game open was that their offense kept to the pressure against Detroit so that they had to get riskier and riskier, and then turnovers happen. That's the thing for me. You want to control the time of possession, and your offense has to come away with touchdowns. Because if you're getting a field goal battle with them, it only takes one deep strike, and then you're behind the eight ball, and all the work you've put in throughout that game is going to be thrown by the wayside.
Yeah, excellent work. Now, listen, if you're in the audience, we appreciate you watching. This was a more kind of a scattered conversation tonight about the Lions. For me, it was much easier to talk about the Packers and the Bills. I knew exactly what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. It's just not easy. I knew much more here against the Lions because they have such balance. They have excellent, run pass balance, and they can throw the deep ball too. It's very difficult to decide how to approach it, but I do like ultimately what we've come up with tonight, and the Lions are still going to score a bunch of points. So we just try to slow these guys down a little bit. Okay, so whether you're a Lions fan or not, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please, if you have comments, drop it in on us. All right, Shane and Austin, thank y'all very much. I really enjoy having these conversations, and again, we're just kind of laying a groundwork for what might happen during the week versus some of these defenses. All right. Thank y'all, everybody, for listening. We will have more offenses coming out. We'll talk about some of the other top offenses in the NFL as the season goes along. Have a great one. This is Pro Football Enterprises. Goodbye.